Hello, everybody, and welcome back to SISH 1. I've been gone for quite a while because I came down with a pretty terrible case of SIPD, but I've recovered. Sorry I didn't say anything for a while, but, I'm fine. We're going to be talking about the modern era today. Shouldn't be too long. Here's the thing I want to put an asterisk on, though, is we cover big history here, but maybe something large happens in the very near future. Maybe to give you a realistic example, Araman gets the 80% Dream Percent record because I think currently he's eyeing that up. If that happens during the course of the rest of this lecture, then I didn't have slides prepared for it, so apologies, but I did want to cover at least two major things that happened. And as you can tell, the first one has to do with Zar. There's also a record sweep we'll talk about in a bit, but I didn't want to discuss too much else because even if there were other people that were doing really, really well, we haven't seen them do that much yet. So I wanted to hold off on talking about them. Maybe in SISH 2, by the time you get to that, it would have happened and Armin can cover that slack for me. But as of right now, we're just gonna stick to a few things. Firstly, Zar. Zar, he's been a very, very, very incredible runner who's shown up in the modern era. As a matter of fact, we find it a very good line to draw that when he joined, that was the beginning of the modern era. So much so that some people will even call it the Zar era, because Zar has definitely carried the torch for the past 6 months of this game's activity, at least. So there is that. Um, Hopefully his head's not too large, and hopefully mine's not either. Anyway, we'll discuss a little bit of Zar. So his first run was like an any percent 1340 day one, September 24, 2021. Of course it's bad, but it would be a lot better over time. Obviously, no one stays at 1340, and it was even just a day later that he got a much better time. So, I mean, that doesn't tell you much. And while Zar was around in September, there wouldn't be too much Zar would end up doing. Like, I mean, obviously he was doing incredible stuff before mid-February, but you would see a lot of what makes Zar in like mid-February onwards, right? Notably that he got very, very close to sub 5 before mid-February. I think it was even like 502, really, really close. Um, so nothing to sneeze at, of course, but you would see a lot more Zar after that. And even like he's even considered as one of the best SI runners, maybe the best string to dial runner, which is debatable, but we'll get onto that later. Don't you worry. So, before we get on too much Zar, though, there are a few final category changes I want to discuss. Um, Dream Percent became a subcategory for every single category starting from this point. So, every category could now be run with mostly perfect drops. The mostly is because seeds were not changed, like the item seeds. So, if you're doing bread percent or something, that massively affects your run. Because seeds are very important. You need to get 2 of them in a row to perfectly do a bread percent run, which is like a 1 in 4-ish chance. So it definitely sucks that they weren't, perfect, but everything else is, so it barely matters. In the grand scheme of the bread percent RNG checks and runs and stuff, but it would be better if, you know, the seeds or perfect drops. I'm not saying this for any particular reason or to any particular person who made the mod, but so sorry. Um, yeah, true winning percent now exists. Finally, in the modern era, training percent has a spot on the leaderboards. It was previously called 100%, but it was decided the better name would be True Ending Percent, and finally it was put up on the boards. A 10:05 that I had gotten from it a while ago was the world record for quite a while, so there is that to note. It was technically a category for a while, but now it's just very official. Also, Long 80%, which was a bit more of a meme category, but it was also added, so you want the longest time you can playing the video game. Um, there's a gentleman that in vanilla you want to beat the record by a little bit, and in Dream Percent you go buck wild and see how high you can get. I think, or how high you can get it. I think Armin has the record right now. Still has to put it up on the boards. Calling you out right now, fellow professor. But anyway, I think it's like at 9 hours compared to Vanilla's 5 hours. So there is that. And there are 20 categories total. You can write that if you want, but I just mainly want you to note the category changes of true percent and dream percent becoming a subcategory everywhere. That's the main things you need to, write down for your notes. All right, so the rise of Zar, Zar the Czar. So he wasn't really planning to run the game that long. He just kind of wanted to step in and get a 7:15 and stop there, right? Then there was this whole thing with the Impossible mod, which Zar will get in, or sorry, Armin will get into a little bit more in SISH 2, I bet. But, or we actually did cover it before on another slide, I think, in like lesson 3. But yeah, that Impossible mod, it should be in your notes. After that was beaten, he went to sub 630, and then Zar like, I'm stumbling today. Zar decided that, you know what? I'll go even further, maybe sub 5. That was sort of the sentiment there. So he kept grinding and kept getting times lower. He got 502 at the very end of January and sort of chilled there for a minute because there was a time in February we will get to very soon where there was a lot more happening than just Zar grinding 80%. But after all of that was over, starting March 1st, he would, or maybe more accurately late February, but March 1st, you would definitely see the progress because I think he got a PB of 501. So for a little over 2 weeks, he kept going, and March 17th, 2022, got a 452, which puts him in second place above Armin, and he's now the third person to have gotten a sub 5. Currently the last, though feel free to correct me in the comments once another person gets a sub 5. It may happen in the near future. I could see a few people getting it, but as of right now, April 8th for Hollow University time, it's the last one, right? So let's talk about the record sweep. I told you there was something weird going on in February, and that was because, oh hey, it's me. If you remember, I'm sure we discussed it a little bit, I wanted to get like a record sweep in every category throughout this entire game's history. But it didn't really happen that well until a little like in the mid-January where I decided to just finally do it. This is my last shot. We have 20 different categories at this point. It's just ridiculous. So since there were new Dream Percent categories, no one had really run them, other than Full Gem Percent, I believe, and Boss Kill. I think that's it on the list. Nobody decided to do anything with it. So I decided to set out and do some runs with it. Taking all of those new Dream Percent categories, right? No one was really resisting the whole like record sweep thing. But there were a few runs I needed to be able to beat and watch out for. And the most daunting was the Boss Kill Percent record that Andrew got, which you may remember, the first sub 4 in Boss Kill. It was extremely tough to beat, but I eventually did on February 17th, 2022, and that wasn't technically the last record I had to get. It was the next to last because there's a long 80% run to do, but that wasn't too hard. That Boss Kill Percent record was really the final one I had to get. So once I got it, the sweep was pretty much guaranteed because no one beat any of my runs by the time I finished it. And for 3 days, I held every record. Sadly, the mods that weren't me, so Armin and Lily, are pretty much just the only two active, since Makai long hasn't been. Clint Stevens is a meme person on the mod team. Neither of them decided to verify my runs at all, or the Boss Kill record, but not many of the other ones, in time, because by February 21st, Zar was starting to take a few of the records, and all of my records weren't verified yet, so screenshots of when it happened, and like my profile having all of the first places, never happened. So That's a shame, but maybe one day I'll just get it again, wink. But you may also see, few people cared. Um, I think in any other community or game, there would be a lot of people who would see it as like incredible that all of the records managed to get got. But for Stranded Isle, especially most of big business, so Arm and Lily, um, they didn't really care all too much. They were like, well, you got them all. That's cool. Because there was sort of this thing happening at this point where I had been the best player for so long that anything I did, it would, no matter what, be a little less impressive because, well, it was Hollow Knight doing it. You know, Hollow Knights just, they do this kind of stuff all the time. And this is a bit of just like me assuming because it's not like we're really certain why nobody cared. I'm pretty confident that's the reason why. And also that this game did not see that much activity. At this point in late February, there weren't that many people around. It would be me and maybe Zar doing things at this point. So I think it's a combination of those things. But yeah, no, there weren't that many people who really saw it as a grand achievement and instead just saw that it happened. There was one person who did, though, for sure, and that was Zar. Zar did his absolute darndest to stop it and succeeded a lot. Zar would take record after record after record and eventually had a pretty big wall for me to take down of records, which I just reasonably can't do in a day or two, unlike the last sweep where a lot of it was done in the span of like a week. So Zar for sure um, stopped the sweep and even today continues to whittle down my record count. So took the bread percent record today. Literally today. I don't think it was like that long ago in terms of like 3 hours. It wasn't like that, but today, for sure. So, I mean, it's still happening, but he's not quite at a majority of records yet. We'll get to that in just a tad bit. Um, there are, of course, other people who have run during the modern era, but again, people such as Ouija Spider and Aramin, even FPR, Frozen Pizza Rolls, I don't feel comfortable talking about what they've been doing because I'm not too sure where they're going to stop, where that story ends. But I would love to give you a rundown of all five of these people and what they've been doing in the modern era. Ouija Spider, not Ouija Squid. That's somehow a misconception. I'm sure Armin will call them Ouija Squid, but that's just not right. Um, be aware of that. Ouija Spider has been doing any percent runs, gotten a 529, or I guess sub 530. I'm not too sure what the exact time is, fairly recently. And it did not take that long either, but I didn't feel very comfortable saying anything until maybe they got like sub 5, right? So I won't say anything there, but if you do want to write it down, there you go. That's what Ouija Spider has been doing. Aramin has been doing a bit of like things here and there. Did try to do a little bit in preventing the record sweep, like taking a full gym percent record for a very minor amount of time, I do believe, and getting a PB there, but in general did not do that much. Recently, though, seems to be a bit more focused on um, the dream percent side of any percent and maybe beating that record. Though not exactly sure when it is he'll continue grinding it. Seems focused in other areas at the moment. High just did a little bit of PBing in any percent just to get a more respectable time, which fair. Nusan, the developer, also did a run. Doesn't really seem like he's going to be grinding it though. I mean, it's his game. That's really all he needs. And Frozen Pizza Rolls did a run for bread percent and might be taking that record sometime soon, but I haven't seen that much movement in a couple weeks, so I'm not too sure. Also, I believe that FPR is currently in the class, so everyone say hello, you know? Not now, that's awkward, but later. Um, a couple other notes. The one on the slideshow here is one that if you wanted to, you could write down. You don't really have to. But we've also seen a lot more alts in this era. So the one percenter, as my example here, just an account made by Armin that was meant to mock me, I think, and It's pretty funny, I'll give it that. But the side effect of this alt thing is that people have been considered alts, for example, FPR. So at this point, you won't know if a new account is an alt or not. You'll have no clue apparently. It's very hard to figure out. All right, final slide. Who's the best Draenei speedrunner in the modern era? This used to be a very easy question. Um, well, not for the in the modern era part, but for every other era, easy question. Hollow Knight. You may see maybe some people saying Andrew because Andrew just did really good in boss kill, but Andrew's weakness was any percent, and he was a lot more focused on boss kill. So I think the argument that Andrew's the best doesn't work that well unless you just limit it to boss kill, into which, yeah. But as for overall speedrunner, Hollow Knight for the longest time. Nowadays, though, there are a lot more people who believe that Zar is the best speedrunner as of the modern era. Currently, if you want a different word for it. So, I would like you to read both of these. You don't have to use the names Bob and Tom for the arguments. You can just say person 1 and person 2, or the Hollow Knight stand and the Zar stand, or whatever works for you, as long as I know what you're talking about. But I would like for you to do some of your own thinking. I've been just spewing things at you for a while. I want you to sort of like in your brain formulate something, like your own thoughts of what you think about history as it is unfolding. Um, we're seeing a divide between Hollow Knight is the best and Zar is the best, and I want you to determine which of those you agree with. Do you think that I am the best, or do you think that Zar is the best? You will not get extra points for saying I am the best, even though I'm teaching this class. I'm going to be as impartial as possible. Um, I mean, it's hard to when you're the person writing the slide, but I made sure to give both me and Zar as much praise as you really could for, like, modern era, achievements and big things, right? I could say that, um, for example, Zar recently took bread percent record, but that literally happened today. I was not ready for it. Everything else, very major, I tried to put there. So I want you to look at both of them and write a paragraph. Why is it you agree with person A or person B? If you even have a weird argument saying that a third party is better, as long as it is not you, and it's a good argument, sure, maybe you think that Armin's the best. Go ahead. I mean, go to town. But the two biggest arguments, and the two that would probably have the most evidence for, is me and Zar. So, pick one and write a thing. You could even say that we are even if you want. I'm perfectly fine with you picking a middle ground thing and just saying that, oh, well, the Hollow Knight's great at this, but Zar's way better at this, and they sort of even out with this, and so I don't think either of them is better. I think they are equal. That's fine. I just want to know your stance on that question of who's the best Stranded speedrunner. In the modern era is a very important like asterisk, because if you say like over the course of all of history, then I feel like it would be unfair to Zar. But focusing in on the modern era, it's a much more debatable question. So I'll have a classroom thing up for that soon. Um, and yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything for today. This will be the end of us talking about generalized history. What we will be doing later is talking about the exact world record progressions of everything. And before that, what we will probably be doing tomorrow is the routes of everything. So be prepared to have a section of your notebook dedicated to, the route for any percent, at this time, and then later, and then after that, and then another thing where it's like boss kill, right? So leave a lot of paper around. We will be doing every single category. And I will. So, well, actually, no, it's Friday, isn't it? Okay, well, after this weekend, maybe. So, yeah, thank you all. I'm so sorry I had SIPD for so long, but, life works its way out and things happen. But, I'm excited to see your all's faces again in, what, 3 days? So yeah,